Yellow guys, how are you doing? Welcome back to Rule of Two Review. So really quickly and super random before we get into the actual topic of the video, I wanted to share something with you guys that I came across that I hadn't seen in a really long time, and I just thought it would be fun to just kind of throw it on the video for the first little bit here. So this is a t-shirt that I got for attending E3 in 2004, which feels like an eternity ago, and it's a couple of generations prior to now. I mean, it feels like a long time ago. It was an amazing experience. I've talked about it before. That E3, I think, is probably the best E3 ever, in my opinion, because across the board, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft had so much cool stuff going on, and it was amazing being there in person back in the day before the internet gave us all of this information constantly and all this video content for gaming, before YouTube even. And what I have is a shirt that I had gotten for being one of the first people to see the Nintendo DS actually unveiled to the world. It was this crazy thing, and so I got this t-shirt here. It says, "See it, touch it, play it" on the front, which sounds weird in the wrong context. And then on the back, you can see, it's just this cool little wireframe mock-up of the original DS model. It's got the E3 2004 logo on the top, Nintendo logo. And it's freaking huge, by the way. It's gigantic. It's like way too big for me. This is like a dress on me. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. But this is really cool, and it was a big deal because the DS was like this. Nintendo like announced that their new DS project was going to be a two-screen handheld successor to the Game Boy line, and everyone was like, "That's weird. Like, what is that?" And like all these fake mock-ups were showing up on the internet of like all these screens, and it was just like this really weird thing, and no one could really picture what it would look like. It seems so obvious now, but when it was just an idea that Nintendo said they would show us at E3, it's like, how do you do that? Two screen? That just sounds weird, and I don't even know Nintendo. And we waited in line for like 3 hours at the Nintendo booth. There was this huge line that just went around the entirety of the whole booth. And they took in like 50 people at a time. We got to meet Charles Martinet, who was the voice of Mario. We watched a demo that actually showed a big video that actually showed the DS for the first time. So it's like, oh, that's what it looks like. Ooh, it's a touchscreen. That's incredible. And then that finished, and they ushered us into this big room where there was a bunch of demo kiosks with DSs for us to play. And again, that was where they didn't show it to us online. It was literally just people seeing it in person for the first time ever. And then the day after E3 is when they finally showed all the video and photos of the DS to the world on the internet. And so it's just a really cool piece of history. I'm super nostalgic about that E3 trip. And it's really cool to have found this t-shirt that I hadn't seen in I don't even know how long. And it's like, oh my god, that was the most amazing thing. So just for fun, I figured I would share with you guys this cool, wacky t-shirt. Okay, with that out of the way, let's get into the topic at hand. And what I wanted to do, as you could tell by the title of this video, is revisit a long old topic that a lot of us have discussed many times. I actually did make a video on this way back. I don't even remember if it was before the Switch launched or after the Switch launched. But either way, this is something that a lot of people care about. We're all invested in it, and it's the idea of whether or not the Switch will outsell and outpace the Wii. So, the Nintendo Switch versus the Nintendo Wii. We've all thought about it, and like I just said, we've all talked about it quite a bit. And it's really interesting because I think that there's quite a battle here. We all know that the Nintendo Wii absolutely surprised everyone. It surprised Nintendo, it surprised the gamers, it surprised the public and the press and the entire planet with how successful it was and how cool and innovative it was when it first came out. It was like really controversial at first for Nintendo to try to do something like what they were doing. The original launch video, which we've discussed, I cannot remember where that first was shown off. I think it was TGS. I initially thought it was Gamescom, but I think we researched it on a podcast a little bit ago, and it was TGS, where they showed this video. They didn't have any gameplay, but it was like, this is our new controller for the Revolution. And it was this pointer weird motion thing, and it showed these people in all these settings playing it and doing cool things. And it was like, this is weird, but also kind of cool. Like, does this work? What is this going to be like, you know? And it's funny, this all relates to the whole story about the DS too in the beginning of the video. So it was this crazy thing, and then they started showing up for demos in GameStops and Best Buys. And once people started to play it and have that controller in their hand and see what it was like, it's like, dude, this is actually really cool. And we all know the story about Wii Sports and how that convinced every single human on Earth to want to pick up a Nintendo Wii. And through all of that and myriad other elements that made it so successful, it sold well over 100 million units. It's like, as far as home consoles, I believe the second highest selling console of all time behind the PS2. And that's a huge thing, and it was a gamble Nintendo took. They made a very cool, unique, revolutionary device for not a lot of money. They did sacrifice the horsepower and the technical specs within the box, which some people argue was a good or a bad idea. I'm kind of middle of the road on that. I mean, I love the console in hindsight, so it's hard for me to complain about that. But at the time, I do remember thinking, God, this is so amazing, but sometimes I wish it looked better. That being said, because of that decision, they made so much money. They were making killer profit on every Wii that they sold, and it just kept breaking records and breaking records. And I told this story recently about, you know, this contest, this very famous radio contest where they had people hold their pee for the longest amount of time to win a Wii. It was like, hold your pee to win a Wii or something. And this poor lady ended up going to the hospital because she held her pee for way too long just to get a darn stupid Wii. And those were great, wonderful times, despite the lady going to the hospital. That part wasn't great. But as far as my memory and my reminiscing of 2006, 2007 Nintendo when the Wii came out, and it was like, this is amazing. And in the first year, we had like Galaxy and Metroid Prime 3 to play. It launched with Twilight Princess, oh my freaking god, the greatest game ever at the time. And it was really, really wonderful. And it was nice to see Nintendo take such a risk and be so successful again, coming off of the GameCube, which, I love me some GameCube, it's the best, but it was not super successful. The least best-selling console of that generation. And Nintendo came back swinging. And everyone pretty much considered that the greatest example of a lightning in the bottle scenario, where, wow, Nintendo just had all these different things line up perfectly to create this amazing event, and all these circumstances and the stars aligned in such a way that the Wii was the perfect thing at the perfect time to be that perfect huge success. That was great, but they'll probably never do it again. In fact, almost no one will probably ever be able to do that again. We all know Nintendo thought they could do it a second time with the Wii U, and as much as I love the damn thing, it wasn't a success. It showed that Nintendo was just not paying attention and was confident in the wrong ways and made huge mistakes. And it turns out you can't just repeat that kind of success. It might actually be the lightning in the bottle scenario. So then we come to the Nintendo Switch, newly launched. We're still in the very first calendar year, 12-month cycle of the Nintendo Switch. And going into the Nintendo Switch, a lot of people started to say, you know, this thing could be huge. Maybe this could be as big as the Wii, or even bigger. And a lot of us put the brakes on that. And I've been notorious for putting the brakes on that idea, saying, I just don't think that that's going to be possible. I definitely always believed it would be a hit, and it would do extremely well. It would do much better than the Wii U. Nintendo would make money, and they would be successful again. Even if they came in number 3 at the end of the race, if they had sold 30 or 40 or 50 million Switches, that is a massive success for Nintendo, and it would help them going forward be successful. Since the Switch is launched, we've all seen, okay, hold up now, this thing is flying off store shelves. This thing is the big hot item. I think it was Time Magazine, even just like a week ago, named it the #1 device for the entire year, for 2017, for the holidays. It is the best, hottest device you could possibly pick up. And we all know by September, I think it was like 7.6 million units had been sold. They'd been impossible to find. People were doing lotteries in Japan. It's just this huge thing. And it definitely feels like the Wii. It definitely evokes that kind of success and fervor and non-stop interest that everyone has in Nintendo's newest device, just like back in 2006 with the Wii. And so, like I said many, many months ago, around the launch of the Switch, either right before or right after, I did discuss on my own video that I think there is the slightest possibility that the Switch outsells the Wii, but really, I don't think we're going to see another lightning in a bottle scenario again. I don't think that the Switch, as great as I think it's going to do, it won't do that well. And I probably put like a 70-30 or so on 70% saying that it won't outsell the Wii, with a slight little 30% saying that it could outsell the Wii. Now we have a lot more time between then and now to try to consider what's going on. And I do believe that, I even just heard OJ talking about this the other day, I think on one of his videos, that I believe some industry analysts or reports are starting to state that as of right now, the Switch does seem to be outpacing the Wii. As in, selling more in its first 5, 6, 7 months, whatever, on the market than the Wii did back in 2006. And of course, that's a very awesome trend. That bodes very well. That starts to state, hey, maybe this is possible. Suddenly, we might all be thinking, this could be another lightning in a bottle scenario. The Switch really could do that well. And so, after all this time, I'll share my actual opinion and what I truly think might happen. And it is nothing but a guess or speculation. That's all any of us can do. We can guess and we can speculate. And I'm really good usually about not being caught in the zeitgeist moment of it's the big hot thing, the right here and the right now, and I can't look outside of the excitement of the Switch right now to see the possible future going good or bad, or even look in the past and not be able to remember how things happened in the past. Usually I can factor in these things and make like a really confident, impartial decision. And in doing that, I actually think I can confidently say that there is a much better chance that, yeah, maybe the Switch could end up outselling the Wii. Now, I still don't think it's a lock, you guys. Again, what the Wii truly was and what that felt like and the numbers that that thing achieved in its first 4 or 5 years before it started to die off really is incredible, and it can't be undersold. And maybe some of you guys out there are young enough that you weren't really, even if you were playing the Wii, maybe the Wii and that generation was your first generation of systems, maybe you weren't able to at that time be following the news and the updates and what's happening with the hard numbers of video games and video game sales and Wii sales. But for those of us who are old enough to remember that, I was 26 when the Wii launched, so think about that for a minute. For those of us old enough, I mean, that felt different, man. That felt even different than the Switch. Now, I will say, the Switch is the cooler device. I mean, I like the Switch leaps and bounds more than I ever liked the Wii, and I love the Wii. I really do. But the Switch is the better device, so this doesn't have anything to do with my opinion on the consoles. When I just talk about the feeling and the excitement everyone has for these different consoles, trust me, the Switch is absolutely so impressive with how into it the world seems to be. But my memory is that I feel like the Wii was just a little bit more exciting. I think people were just a little bit crazier for the Nintendo Wii for so far a longer period of time. But if we come back to the numbers, we have to remember, some people are starting to state the Switch is kind of outpacing the Wii right now. So maybe this is going to happen. And you know what? When I look at the amazing lineup that Nintendo has had so far, we all talked about 2017 lineup is so incredible for Nintendo and for the Switch. And, you know, we know a couple of huge things are coming next year. I've discussed many games I expect to possibly see next year and in the following year in 2019. We know Pokemon and Metroid are coming out, and they are going to sell so many more Switches and keep people so interested and invested. I think the third-party situation is going to be better on the Switch within the next year or two than it ever was on the Wii U or even on the GameCube. And I think the GameCube was the heyday of quality third-party support. The Wii is a little bit trickier because there was a lot of third-party games on the system, but they weren't really necessarily always the right kind of third-party games and coming from the right companies. We all know the shovelware conversation, and it was a real problem. I mean, let's get down to brass tacks, you guys. I don't care what anyone says. I don't care how much you love the Wii. You can love the Wii as much as you want. It was amazing. But there was just so much shovelware and garbage on that console, and it became harder to sift through the good games and the bad games, and so I feel like the third-party support wasn't the same on the Wii as it was when there was third-party good support on the GameCube, and now we're seeing third-party good support on the Switch. So all these factors show me that the library is going to continue to be strong and convince gamers, Nintendo fans, and non-Nintendo fans alike to be interested in this amazing device. The quality and the delivery of the promise of the portable and home console gaming, as I discussed recently, is absolutely perfect. They knocked it out of the park. There is no lie and no fibbery happening in any of Nintendo's marketing or promises about what the Switch allows you to do. It does that, and it does it incredibly well. So everything about it says people, I think, are going to continue to be interested, you know? And then there is the fact that the Switch does cater, I think, to the right kind of gamer, to keep the right kind of gamer and the tech-savvy consumer interested in what the device is. So for all of these reasons, I just don't see any reason to believe that the Switch's success is going to slow down very soon. Maybe by the end of year 3, by like late 2019. I mean, well, I don't know, because maybe late 2019 is like when Pokemon comes out or something, and it probably won't be that late in the life, but you never really know. But at some point, it will start to slow down, as I discussed recently, but I feel like we're still gonna go a good couple of years, man, where the Switch is interesting, and people are into it, and everyone's trying to find them, and these great games are gonna keep them invested. However, I'm still not dedicating 100% to the idea of the Switch outselling the Wii, because one thing that the Wii had, I think, is that I think it appealed to a wider swath of people. Not a wider swath of already established gamers like I think the Switch does for the most part, but a wider swath of people. Now, keep in mind, I know everyone is going to want to just, the Switch is the thing now, so everyone wants to defend the thing now because we all love it right now, and I get it. And so you're going to say, oh, but no, the Switch does totally apply to a lot of people, even non-gamers are interested in it. Yes, that is true. I acknowledge that. But I think with the Wii, it was even more so, if that makes sense. So I'm not taking away the fact that Nintendo fans, non-Nintendo fans, and non-gamers are interested in the Switch, and that's why it's doing so well. Yes, that is true. and I love to see that happening. But I feel like there was just a larger percentage and a larger interest level at that time when the Wii came out. And so the Wii had this amazing ability. Wii Sports alone, I don't even like Wii Sports, you guys, but I will acknowledge what that game did. That game reached everybody. That reached old people, that reached retirement homes, that reached young people, that reached kids, that reached the middle 20s people, that reached the hospitals and all these different things. And like, it was insane what Wii Sports and this thing did for people at the time. It was awesome. And so you had the jokes about the soccer moms and the dentists and everyone who's buying these Wiis because of this cool Wii Sports thing. And we all know that got it even into people's homes, but people then stopped playing it and buying games for it. That was the biggest crutch, the biggest Achilles heel to the Wii, was that exact fact. And so it had an amazing way to penetrate people's homes and people's lives. That the Switch, I think if the momentum continues, eventually will probably get to that same level. But right now, I don't think it's just as strong as the Wii's. And so that's why I feel like while the Switch is going to sell gangbusters, whenever this thing's life is done, oh my God, it will be an amazing hit. I mean, it could be as high as 70, 80, maybe even 90 million units. I would absolutely believe that. But is it going to cross that 100 or 120 million units or whatever that I think the Wii did? I know the Wii did over 100 million units. I mean, I just don't know. I just don't know, because I think the Wii just appealed to so many different people for so many different reasons. And the Switch, to its credit, appeals mostly to real gamers. And so people who were never going to be interested in gaming were still willing to pick up a Wii just for Wii Sports, for that party thing when they had family members and their friends over for Bridge Club or whatever. And the Switch doesn't really necessarily do that yet. I mean, we think it does because we're gamers who know that it can do that, but I don't think it's selling to that kind of consumer. I think it's selling to the gaming consumer and to the tech consumer and a little bit outside of that. And so that's why we've seen such strong success so far. And so at the end of the day, I think I'm going to come down on what's going to seem like the easy answer, but I genuinely believe in this answer. And I think it's 50-50. I think right now we're at the end of November 2017. We're coming up on December. We've got one last major release for the Switch coming in a week with Xenoblade Chronicles 2. Oh my God, I cannot wait. I'm so freaking excited. Poor Skyrim. I mean, I'm still so dedicated to Skyrim, but I mean, Xenoblade is probably going to take that over for a while. So we've got that happening. We're still before the end of the first calendar year for the Switch. We need to wait till March 3rd, 2018 to hit that 12-month milestone and see how things are looking. And so, you know, it's hard to predict. We're only guessing. And at this point, the Switch is doing so much better than a lot of us ever expected it could, especially back in the NX days. For anyone who remembers when this thing was this mysterious NX, could Nintendo possibly succeed with the NX? Maybe, maybe not. And they are. They're doing so much better than we thought. I do think we're looking at a lightning in a bottle scenario for the second time. I just don't yet feel comfortable committing to the idea that it will be a bigger seller than the Wii. I mean, if anything, even if the Switch continues to outpace the Wii and sell amazing, you know, software units, I think what might happen, I discussed this recently, is the Switch's life might also just be cut short before it has an opportunity to sell over 100 million units. I mean, that's a real possibility, guys. If this thing goes only 4 years before Nintendo's moving on to the next thing, suddenly, I mean, even if it's reached 60, 70, 80 million units at that time, I mean, Nintendo might move on before it even has an opportunity to hit that 100 million milestone. So that's another huge factor here that we cannot forget or let go of. So when factoring in all of these things, I think the Switch is by far the better machine, and I think that we are by far enjoying it more. And it is doing so fantastically. It is a hit in every true sense of the word. But we still gotta wait to see if it could possibly recapture what the Wii did. I mean, even though that was 11 years ago now, we can't discount what the Wii truly was. That was one of the most unprecedented moments in gaming history for any company ever since the hobby existed. And the Switch, as much as it's great, it's going to be tough to recapture what that did. So those are my thoughts and feelings. I think 50-50 shot, man. It could go either way at this point. I'm not committing to one or the other more than the other. And so let's just see how it plays out. So tell me what you guys think. Do you think it's a lock that the Switch is going to outsell the Wii because you're so excited about it in the right here and now? Or for those of you who remember the Wii, do you feel like me, like, yo, hold up, man, put the brakes on it. It might not have an opportunity to sell as many units as the Wii did. Tell me what you guys think below. That's it for today. Thanks as always for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Roll Up to Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.